Subject this morning, the cosmic dream. In one sense, it is a very difficult subject, because if you try to discuss or tell somebody about your dream, you do not get very far, because the dream passes away when you come back into outward consciousness. It shows that it has no real existence. The fact that when you wake up, so to speak, into this waking consciousness in which you are operating now, where is the dream? Where is it? But when you were in it, it was pretty real, was it not? You tasted and you smelt and you got chased, or you chased someone. There's no end to what can happen in your dream. But the thing to remember is this, that when you wake up, when you come into waking consciousness, the dream disappears. And then you know it was the product of your own waking consciousness. That's the important thing to remember, to understand this subject, the cosmic dream. I remember the Master always told me many times, he says, always remember the illustration of the dream. And then you can more easily understand this cosmic dream. Now it is the same, exactly. The only difference is that in this little dream, so to speak, your consciousness, separated from the universal consciousness, has produced the dream. In other words, your invisible thought becomes visible, so to speak, in your dream. And yet, when you wake up and come back into this one waking consciousness, where is your dream? Now that brings a rule which you must never forget, that to break a dream, whether it be your individual dream or the great universal dream of God, you must wake up into the original consciousness which has produced the dream. Therefore, as you break your own dream when you wake up into your ordinary waking consciousness, to break the cosmic dream, you must wake up into that consciousness which is producing it, or cosmic consciousness, or God the Father. Now that rule is and always will be. That is undeniable. If you will remember it, sooner or later you will wake up or be waked up by Divine Mother into that consciousness which has produced all this creation. Realize that. The rule is simple. You break whatever the dream is, individual or cosmic, by waking up into that state of consciousness which has produced it. In one instance, your individual waking consciousness. In the next or the other instance, the universal presence of God as cosmic consciousness. Waking in that, you will see the dream pass away just as your own dream passes away. You wake up, how real it was. Suddenly you wake up and you see it, if you can hold it a little bit, sliding off. So with this dream of the world, exactly the same. You will understand it only when you wake up into that consciousness which is producing it, or God's cosmic consciousness. Now the saints and sages of India of ancient times have likened this universe to the materialized thought of God. That is, in the nature of a dream. And now I understand why the Master was so adamant in impressing me to remember my own dream state. Because you will find, as you meditate more and become more and more divorced from this worldly consciousness, that you will wake up in the presence of God, and you will see and know this as a dream. More so than you know your own dream when you wake up in ordinary consciousness. That's why I'm so happy at least I listened and secondly, that I followed what he told me to do. The breaking of the dream finally has to come through the grace of God. But you have to prepare yourself that you receive that grace. How? By following yoga, Raja Yoga, which simply means the science of uniting your separated consciousness from God to its real home, or the cosmic consciousness. We are that, but we cannot realize it. We seem apart. You're there and I'm here. The world is there and seems so real. The sense of touch is the worst thing, because when you feel a thing, it's pretty hard to realize it isn't as it is. That it's nothing but vibrating light atoms. But when you feel it, it's so wonderful, isn't it? That sense of touch is the worst thing. Other things you can supersede easily, but the sense of touch is very difficult. And the other thing to remember is that this body is not your dream. It's the dream of God. And so psychologically you can break your own dream and you can meditate and you can feel apart from this body and nothing worries you a bit. Why? Because you have broken the psychological dream. But when you wake up and feel good, there's the body, there's everybody and all the trouble waiting for you. Why? These are facts because you haven't broken the cosmic dream. So then you get busy and try harder, and one day the Lord says, well, come on, you've tried hard enough. You've had trouble enough. And you're so willing to say amen. And then he breaks the cosmic dream and you say, my Lord, what have I been fiddling around with this ego consciousness for? It's the ego consciousness that causes all this to be so real. You understand that? It's the consciousness that you think you are the doer in this dream. Instead of realizing that God is the doer, you think you are the doer. And you get so fed up with it that sometimes you get into all sorts of messes until you realize by these troubles that there's something wrong. And then, in your misery, you turn to the Lord and you say, get me out of this dream. Break this dream. From this dream, Lord, will you wake me? He says, all right, come on. Just like that. Just like you break your own dream. But you have to prepare yourself. You have to, by the practice of yoga, know the presence of God, know His reality is peace and bliss, and undifferentiated consciousness of light. You have to know that. Then He can break the dream, but not until that. And so this cosmic dream, remember, is like your own dream, only it's simply the materialized thought of God. Instead of your own thought projected from the subconscious mind, it is the projection of the thought of God. As it says in Genesis, God created heaven and earth, and they were without form and void. Well, where were they? They were in His thought, that's all. And then He created light. Then He created electronic energy, vibration, the great cosmic energy, the Om sound, the Amen of our Bible, the Om of the Hindus, the Amen of the Mohammedans. He created that vibration, that light, and then He projected that energy as light, as a motion picture, and has produced this thing which seems so real. It is not real. It is not as it seems. Now, we do that same thing in our little dream. We have all these thoughts stored up, and they're added to every day and every minute in the subconsciousness. And then, through the law of projection and duality, we pass that energy through the little films and project on the screen of consciousness our dream. We do the same thing as God does, only He does it in a far greater measure. And so that's what the thing to remember is. The thing to remember in this cosmic dream is that it is the materialized thought of God. You have the scriptures. God created heaven and earth, and they were without form and void. Then He created light, or then He energized, so to speak, these thoughts which He has, which took millions of years, according to our sense of time, to produce the different creations and universes. And then He projected that light through these films of thought and projected them and has given us this universe, this creation. Now that's what the cosmic dream is. But it doesn't seem so that it is as simple as that, and it seems so real due to the fact that our ego is attached to it. If we can get rid of the ego, throw it out, then we can feel that we are not the doer. Then we can understand much easier. But as long as you think you are the doer and you feel big, you cannot do a thing. God is the one. He's the one. And that's the hardest thing. You know how long it takes to break the ego, to get it out? Only 1,000,000 years of our time, that's all. Think of it. If I had to live with mine that long, I'd get it out somehow. Well, the somehow is you can get it out by the practice of Raja Yoga, which Self-Realization Fellowship teaches, which allows you to break the attachment of your soul to the ego. And that 1,000,000 years can be speeded up so that you can do it without too much difficulty in one lifetime. Think of it. Because the practice of Raja Yoga, especially Kriya Yoga, is scientific. And if you do so much, you get so much evolution. If you do so much more, you'll get that much more evolution. And when you do enough, the ego is eliminated. And then God is freedom to come into you and say, now you see, I'm the sole doer. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Is just what he meant and what he means. But how difficult it is to say, well, Lord, you take care of things now, and then the next minute you're at it again. These are facts you cannot get away with. I've found it so, and I know most of you, if you're sincere and truthful, you'll say, that's right, amen. And these things are facts. Just a reference at this time from our Master's writings. He says things which it takes a long time to understand. I'm all right, it's just I haven't been drinking or anything. But sometimes God is so wonderful you just forget everything. Instead of standing straight, you're apt to fall over. That's all right. Now let's go on with this reference. That there is one underlying noumena, and that's God's presence. The underlying noumena is the greatest thing if you can understand that and know that you are not this body, but vibrating light of God, and science has shown these things. I'll come to it in just a moment. The whole universe is materialized thought of the Creator. This heavy earthly clod floating in space is a dream of God. He made all things out of his consciousness. He made all things out of his consciousness, even as man, in his dream consciousness, reproduces and vivifies a creation with its creatures. And these are our Master's words. These are words of truth. Just as you create in your dream, God has made this creation. How do you break your dream? Return to the original consciousness which you have. Therefore, how to break the cosmic dream? Return to that consciousness which has produced it. Cosmic consciousness, not this limited, mundane consciousness. God first created the earth as an idea, as I spoke to you about Genesis. And then he created this holy vibration to produce those things as solids, liquids, gases, and so forth. First he produced the atom. And then on that he built all things until finally he has the creation. He did that how? By his will. So likewise we, although we do not realize it, dream because our will is there. The will hidden underneath in the subconsciousness. Now, when he withdraws his will, the Master says, the earth will disintegrate into energy. Energy will dissolve into consciousness, and the earth idea will disappear from objectivity. Doesn't your dream do the same thing? So it will be when you wake up in God. This dream which seems so real will disappear from objectivity, which is true, but only when you become that consciousness which has produced the dream, or cosmic consciousness, which we are, when we don't realize it. And so from thought, this whole material universe has come, as I have pointed out, by creating energy, activating the thought, producing the great cosmic sound of Om, or the great holy vibration, the Spirit, the Comforter of which Jesus spoke. From that, projecting the light, this whole thing has come. Now, science testifies or substantiates the dream nature of the universe. This isn't just some idea. This has been shown and proven by science, and especially lately. Science has shown and is showing that matter is always changing, resolving into first electromagnetic force and finally into light. Think of it. These heavy metals, which seem so heavy and solid, are nothing but light atoms vibrating at a certain rate of speed. We have the testimony, for instance, of Eddington. Eddington says, matter is ever becoming energy, and energy resolves into light. However solid it may appear to us, this physical world, which operates under the principle of relativity and duality, is not as real as it appears to be. It is not as real as we think. We become attached to it because we cannot see with that cosmic consciousness of God. Otherwise, we wouldn't see this book as we see it now, but we, through intuition, would see it as the vibrating light of God. I don't think these things are far-fetched. Meditate and you'll be able to prove it. But if you don't meditate, you'll never know. You have to do your part. Our master used to say, I can tell you what to do, but you've got to do it. And so we must do those things. So science substantiates these things. And also the motion picture aspect. Even heavy metals, as I have told you, under the electron microscope are seen as what? Vibrating points of light. Think of it. Heavy metals. And the latest thing in 1960 is, or perhaps 1959 is, that mind has been found to be fast-moving, very fast-moving particles of light. Think of it. That's why if you can control your mind, you can travel any distance instantaneously. So things are not as they seem to be. These things have been shown scientifically, not just in imagination. And even not too long ago, light has been taken, it has been synthesized into what? Electromagnetic force, and finally into matter. How can you doubt these things? This has been done by Dr. Oldenburg of Harvard, and his subject was the production of particles from radiation, gamma rays into positrons. So we're way behind the times, fooling around with this outer consciousness. Let us meditate and know that this cosmic dream is a creation of the thought of God. And even time and space have been shown to be unreal. There is no time and space. Is there any time and space when you sit in a quiet in meditation? If you haven't meditated, try it. Time and space evaporates. Even Kant said that quite a few years ago. Time and space do not exist except as attributes of the mind. Let us realize that we are not this body. We are the vibrating light and energy and love of God, which cannot be hurt, cannot be sick or sinful, is ever existent, always was and will be. That's what we must know, and we can know it by proving that we can break this cosmic dream. Another reference from the Master's writing, perhaps at this time, to show these things are so. The substance of a dream is held in materialization by the subconscious thought of the dreamer. When that cohesive thought is withdrawn in wakefulness, the dream and its elements dissolve. A man closes his eyes and he erects a dream creation which, on awakening, he effortlessly dematerializes. Now, you can't dematerialize God's dream, but he can. Just as you dissolve your dream, so God can dissolve this other dream, but we have to let him do it. That's the point. He follows the divine type or pattern. Similarly, when he awakens in cosmic consciousness, he will effortlessly dematerialize the illusions of the cosmic dream. These are our own Master's words. And he surely had dematerialized this cosmic dream if you will read his poem Samadhi. You'll understand then and read it, meditate, and one day you will know, as he knew, gone forever are the fitful flickerings of mortal memory. Spotless is my mental sky. Beneath, in front, and high above, eternity and I, one united ray, a little bubble of ego, so to speak, has become the sea of bliss itself. So these are wonderful things. God would not send to us an agent as our master unless it could be done by each one of us. In fact, that's why God sends the sages and the saints, to show us it can be done. What do? Nothing. Many of us. Why not follow them? It's not difficult. Only we have to follow, that's all. Now going on just a little bit about if we are attached to this cosmic dream emotionally, we are in for trouble. You all know that, I'm sure. We are attached emotionally to this cosmic dream, and the result is sorrow and trouble. Now, our master used to say this: change your attitude toward this cosmic dream. He used to say, don't take life too seriously. I was very seriously minded, and I didn't like that at first. He says, don't pay too much attention to it. We're here today and gone tomorrow. Just before he passed away, he said, remember when we first met, how wonderful it was, the love which we felt? I said, yes, sir. He says, life's the dream, isn't it? I says, it sure is. He says, where is your father? Where is my father? They're gone. I said, yes, they are. But isn't that love the same? I said, yes, sir. He says, as we started, let us finish. It was he who gave me a taste of that cosmic consciousness of God's love, and I never left it. By the grace of God, somehow I hung on. And you all can do the same thing. As we started, let us finish, he said, in that one love of the infinite, which is none other than cosmic consciousness. And so he also said this. He said, even though this life is a dream, even though we're here today and gone tomorrow, he said, but the candles that you are lighting and burning in your Father's home will light your path here and hereafter. Your Father's home is that home of light and energy of cosmic consciousness. You may not see that you are lighting them, but every time you meditate and feel the presence of God and try, you are lighting a candle in that infinite home of light. That's one of the greatest things he has written to me. And our Father's home is the home of light and energy, beyond time and space, in which there is no trouble, no conflict, no sorrow, only God alone, infinite, unending. You cannot drain the great ocean of bliss, so to speak. Perfect peace and joy. That's where we belong, even while on this existence here. If we cannot prove it while living here, what good is it? What good is yoga? Unless by yoga we can prove our immortality. We can do that, and we must do that. And we will do that because sometime God's going to do it for us. But let's help him out a little bit. Do our part. And so that's what our attitude should be in this cosmic dream, is that God is the doer. And if we can just somehow realize that and know that one consciousness, we'll have no more difficulty. We try to do it ourselves. We try to do it. Let us throw the ego out. And we can, because God will never forsake us if we will just do our part and try. Difficulties come because we do not understand that we are in this cosmic dream of God. We do not understand how to break it. But Master came to give us the ways and the means to know that one consciousness from which this cosmic dream has come. Knowing it, just as your own dream breaks when you wake up, so this cosmic dream will pass away. And there'll be no more sorrow. Jesus says that. My kingdom is not of this world. My kingdom is not of this world. It is of the light and love of God. We must get into that kingdom somehow. We must somehow break this cosmic dream and remember once more the unequivocal law that you can break any dream if you understand and merge in the consciousness which has produced it. Merge in God's consciousness. It's waiting for us. It's there if we will but try and try just a little more and keep at trying. From our Master's little book, Master said, in reference at this time, to substantiate these things of which I've been speaking, life is a great dream of God. The Master said, if it is only a dream, why is it pain? Why is pain so real? One of the students inquired, and this is what the Master said. A dreamer is not cognizant of the hallucinatory fabric of a dream until he awakens. Similarly, a man does not understand the illusory nature of the cosmic dream of creation until he awakens in God. How soon the ordinary dream passes away when you awake in the morning? Just once taste the consciousness of God, the cosmic consciousness, and this dream will be just the same. Such is God's love for his children. Let us realize our Master's words. Meditation is the way. Meditation is the way through Raja Yoga to first attain the presence of God, and then by full surrender. That's the point which is so hard. Why? Because we think we are the doer. We have to break that ego consciousness. First attain the presence of God, then by full surrender. When there's no other consciousness in you, no other vibration of any consciousness except what you truly are, then you naturally merge in through the grace of God and become one with Him as the cosmic consciousness of God. These are eternal truths. All the scriptures attest to them. Let us understand them. And remember, the cause is ego consciousness, the duality of ego consciousness with its blinding and binding power, and how blinding and how much it binds us. That's the cause. But we can break it. Breaking that, we will understand the reality of the one cosmic consciousness of which we are a part. We will understand God as the sole doer. Understanding that, how can the ego exist? It cannot exist. It has no place to go. We understand and realize the one Father. Master said this wonderful thing, which I found in one of his older lectures. He says it is our own sense of our own importance. It is our own sense of our own importance which makes this world seem so real. Think of it. If you didn't realize or think you realize how big you were and important, you wouldn't be half so hurt with so many things. But if you can realize that it is God is the doer, then you realize you have no importance at all except as His consciousness. These are immortal truths which the Master has given to us. And remember, the cosmos is a varied expression of the one power, light. Light vibrating at different rates of vibration, but guided by divine intelligence. That's the thing. Ordinary light is nothing we want. But when God's intelligence is perceived in the action of that light, producing the light and shadows of this cosmic dream, that's what we want to know. That's what we have to know. Meditation is the way. Meditation is the way to understand these things, because by meditation you supersede the ordinary little faculties of ego consciousness and powers of ego consciousness. You replace those by the unending, immortal power of the soul which comes through intuition. It is through intuition that we can break the cosmic dream. Not by reason, not by mind or intellect, no matter how great it seems. It cannot understand the cosmic dream, but intuition can. The pure in heart, the simple, the humble shall know God. Why? Because their intuition is developed It is not interfered with by these things of spirit as ego conscious. That is what we must understand. We must, through intuition, know the one eternal substance from which all things come. It cannot be known by reason or intellect. It can easily be known by affection and love as the intuition of the soul. This one supreme substance. Master has said this. Without question of a doubt, there is no difference whatsoever between bliss consciousness and God consciousness. That does not mean just a little happiness. That means the bliss of God's presence, His love. There is no difference. The moment you feel that in your heart welling up, hold on to it. That's the presence of God. And little by little, adding a little bit to it, soon it'll be all things. Master's words are most wonderful. He also said this, which you will read in his autobiography. Long continued concentration on the liberating spiritual eye. And the liberating spiritual eye has enabled the yogi to destroy all delusions concerning matter and its gravitational weight. Why? Because this is the seat of spiritual perception. This is the seat of intuition, not the tip of the nose. Jesus said, if thine eye be single, thy body will be filled with light. He didn't mean the tip of the nose. He meant this eye here. Realize these things. Follow your yoga. Follow it intelligently. Therefore, he sees the universe. That is, the yogi who penetrates the spiritual eye here. He sees the universe as an essentially undifferentiated mass of light. But in that light, what you feel in that light is indescribable. Jesus said, the eye hath not seen, nor ear heard, the things which the Lord hath prepared for those who love Him, who want Him, that's all. These are eternal truths. Want Him that much. Never give up, and you will know and break the cosmic dream. Breaking that, you will realize you always were, always will be. There's no separation between you. You are a part of cosmic consciousness itself. And I'll close by just a word from one of Master's books, which is most wonderful, and I hope that you will always remember this last passage, in which he says, speaking of how quickly we may be released by God's grace from the delusions of Maya. Sometimes it seems we'll never get out of it. That is not true. For he goes on, in this world we seem to be immersed in a sea of troubles. Then the Divine Mother comes and shakes us, awakening us from this terrible dream, which it is. Every man, sooner or later, every man, sooner or later, will have that liberating experience. Every man. You see your child in bed moving, going through, as you say, dreaming. What do? You shake him. Wake him up. Into what? Into his waking consciousness. And so Divine Mother will come when we really want her enough. Or God will come when we really want Him enough. He will shake us just that way. You'll say, I was dreaming. I didn't realize what I was.